Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is your boy Ali. So today we're going to be talking about how to pass your CCIE Lab exam at the first attempt. Now, for the people that have been tuning into my channel, I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for tuning in and giving me the views. For the people that are brand new, hit the subscribe button and check out my channel. Let me know how I'm doing, and give this video a like if you like any of the content that this video offers you. Now, a lot of people that are tuned into this video right now most likely already know what CCIE is, and it's a Cisco Certified Network Expert Level Exam. So if you're in the field of networking, this is pretty much the highest level of certification that you could get. It's pretty much considered as a doctorate of networks. So only 4% of the networking engineers or networking world attain this level of certification. So I fall in that 3 to 4%, and I'm very proud of it. So that's why I wanted to make a video about it and kind of help you guys out who have tuned into my channel, to kind of walk you through what I did from my own experience, and maybe that could help you out. When I first started my CCIE journey, I was scrambling through social media, YouTube, everywhere, and I was not able to find any content because the amount of people who have passed this exam is so low that those people just don't make YouTube videos. So I happen to be the first one on here talking about the CCIE lab exam and how to pass it. So hopefully this video is somewhat of a help to you. If it's not, I'll apologize in advance for wasting your time. Now, achieving CCIE is a huge milestone in your career, especially if you are in the IT world and a networking world, and you have been working in the field for 10 plus years, and you want to put that gold medal or platinum medal on your resume or on your chest, pretty much holding these credentials. I mean, if you get hired as a CCIE, they'll have rumors, that a CCIE got hired. It's that type of credentials, right? So it's definitely, without a doubt, one of the most talked about career. So achieving this CCIE certification is a huge milestone for somebody's career. Now, as you take, it takes your career to new heights, and it gives you advanced level of understanding about specific of technology. So let's say if you have a master's degree and you have a CCIE, by far, without a doubt, they would consider you having a CCIE and some experience in the field rather than a master's degree. A master's degree in the networking world or in the IT world is really meaningless, and I have it. You could ask me about it. Now, however, definitely attainable, but without the right mindset, it's going to be almost impossible to achieve these credentials. So before we get started, let me show you my plaque. And the day I got my CCIE number, I was really, really proud of it. So there's about maybe 50,000 people in the world who have these credentials, and this exam was launched in 1993. So you could pretty much tell in like about 30 years of time frame, only 50,000 people were able to pass the exam. So this is the plaque. It's made out of marble. Really nice. I hang it on my wall, and I'm very proud of it. So I'll be back. Now, this is the second video I'm making about passing CCIE on the first attempt. There was another one that I made about a week ago, and I was not satisfied with the level of content that I was giving inside that. So I went back, I deleted that video, I went back and did more research and gathered all my notes and pretty much took a lot of notes so I could be more brief and more precise at the same time, telling you about how I went about passing my CCIE the first attempt. So of course, CCIE is the most elite IT or engineering exam when it comes to the field of networking. It has 2 parts, written and lab. You must pass the written to be able to take the lab, which is pretty much the actual exam. Now, a lot of times people will pass their written exam and they will write CCIE collaboration or routing and switching or etc. And then they will in brackets write written. Now, that does not mean anything to the employer because they're really looking for somebody who has attempted and passed the lab. So in this case, I have my lab exam passed, and once you pass the lab exam, they actually give you a 5-digit number, and you pretty much take that around with you wherever you go. And a lot of managed service provider will just hire CCIEs just for their number because they get a 50% discount from the vendor whenever they resell their hardware or their licenses or their softwares, etc. So the first thing we're going to talk about is inclination. Now, before you even start the preparation, first you want to narrow down a particular track that you'd like to pursue. Now, CCIE has data center, routing and switching, you got collaboration, you got, there's a couple other more. There's wireless, and I think there's like one more. So I personally went for CCIE collaboration because it had the highest failure rate. And for me, it was a challenge because I just don't want to get CCIE just to get it. I wanted the toughest exam in front of me, so when I pass it, equal the reward, right? So when you go apply for a job, the salary reflects that, as well as the likelihood of you getting hired for a company among other people who have applied for the same role. So the nature of CCIE is to determine your ability to operate at the highest tier of configuration and troubleshooting knowledge. So when you get hired in a company and you're a CCIE, you're pretty much expected to be that guy that people go to for a higher level of knowledge, for solution architecture, or you're the guy that they come to when they want their problem solved. So now it is possible to know everything in a very complex system, but the certification you're attempting qualifies you for a position that often responsible for minimizing outages and the associated lost revenue that occurs for those outages. Now, number one reason, a company pays a lot of money to an engineer or architect is to make sure they have the least amount of downtime, right? So their solution is scalable, and they don't want any lost revenue. So for example, just an example here, that let's say if you're a BMW, you're selling cars and you get about 1 million sales just through your call center each day because your call center people attend those calls for the customers and they sell those cars or whatever. And so now if your call center goes down or your hardware goes down or your software goes down, the servers go down, all that time when your server's down and customers are calling and it's going fast busy or it's dead air or whatever the case is, now that's lost revenue. There could be a lot of customers on that call that were very serious to make that deal right there and then, but you lost that customer, right, because of your down situation. Now, that's one of the reasons why CCIEs would get involved, to make sure that the company's architecture is so resilient that no matter what you throw at it, it stays up. All right, moving on. So second thing you want to make sure is, after inclination, of course, you've planned all that out. You want to do your study plan. Now, you should proceed to study for CCIEs when you have 5 to 7 years of experience in the production environment. Now, 5 to 7 years in a production environment could really be subjective, because it depends on where in production you have worked. Now, a lot of people, if they're doing level 1, level 2 stuff, most likely you need to at least have level 3 or solution architecture level, or maybe a senior deployment engineer level of knowledge for about 10 years to be able to tackle something as highly achievable as CCIE. The more experience you have, the better it will be for you to understand the configuration and troubleshooting scenarios. It would be ideal at this stage to put in all your time and efforts going through the blueprint from Cisco's website and break down each section to envision your plan of attack. Now, that's what I did. So you go to Cisco's website and they have the blueprint out there for you, and that'll kind of show you how the exam structure is like, and it'll break down each individual topic, and you could go ahead and study those topics and pull resources from all different directions to cover those topics, right? So some of the places you could go is use the SRND, INE labs. You could take a boot camp from INE. Now, I wouldn't recommend boot camp unless you use that as like the final stage prep, right? So just you're about to go into the lab, so you want to take the boot camp maybe 2 weeks before, just so you're on top of your A game, and you just go right into the lab after that, because they'll prepare you for time management, they'll prepare you for speed, and because you have to have both at the same time, and they'll polish you up before you get into that. So obviously you have to have the knowledge prior to the boot camp. Now, you must be prepared to be overwhelmed in any situation. You will feel like giving up various times, as it's just not studying the material but configuring the full lab within a given time frame. So just from my experience, you need to configure the whole lab in 6 hours, and then you need to leave yourself 2 hours to troubleshoot. Now, this is simply easier said than done, right? Because once you're there, you're not going to a Pearson VUE testing center down the road, right? You're flying to these places. You're going there one night before, staying at hotels. Then you have to drive to a specific location in a Cisco's CCIE data center. They only have 2 locations in all of United States. I think they just added one in Texas, but before there was RTP, North Carolina, San Jose, California, and now they just opened up in Richardson, Texas. So I gave my exam in RTP, North Carolina, and pretty much I flew from New Jersey to North Carolina and stayed a night there before, and pretty much had to deal with anxiety, had to deal with all kinds of stuff, and of course pay for yourself and everything. Now, CCIE ran me about $15,000 with all the study material, training, labs, everything else, because you have to have a lot of mock lab. You have to configure a lot of mock labs, because that's going to prepare you for your typing speed, configuration speed, and your time management piece. Now, the key is to start learning from the foundation, which is to know how the routing and switching or collaboration works at the CCNA level. So obviously, this goes without saying if you're going for a CCIE. So without a doubt, you have to have CCNA or CCNP down pat. So, just make sure you're prepared for that. That way, it'll be easier for you to grasp on more difficult concepts as you progress. So make sure you do know your base level of understanding of how things work. Now, financing, this whole thing, I was just talking about that. So just like going to a university, you shell out money and get yourself in a good study program. I used INE. Check it out, INE.com. So unfortunately, this is a huge part of CCIE, as each exam costs around $1,800 and boot camp costs anywhere from $5,000 to $12,000. Depending on the length of days. In my example, I funded myself during this whole process, as it was a personal goal for me to achieve this mark. So yeah, I did fund myself, but the lab exam itself was paid by my company, which was $1,800. So I used my personal savings to attend the INE bootcamp, paid for the whole thing by myself. At the end, it was all worth every penny that you invest into your CCIE credentials, because obviously it pays itself when you get hired. Now, lab practice. This is probably half your study time that you will be spending is on lab practice. So you need approximately 800 to 1,000 actual keyboard hours configuring and integrating various equipment. This is not including the time you spend studying and understanding the exam content. This time is actually crucial for your success and will speed you up during your actual lab. One of the ways the CCIE exam prepares those that are ready and those that are not is by asking you to do what normally takes 10 hours to configure and require you to do it in less than 8 hours. So this means you need to be able to do it in 6 hours before you even try it. Now, pretty much bottom line, you have to be able to, once you're doing the mock exam, you have to be able to do it within 6 hours. If you're doing 7 hours, 8 hours, don't bother registering or scheduling your lab exam yet. So that takes a lot of time, and I'm sure the people who are studying for it know already. So now it would be best to use the rack rental from INE, as I did in my case, and use the tokens to access the lab. Will be more cost effective compared to the other competitors. Or you could buy your hardware too, but you don't want to run servers and switches and everything inside your house. I could have done that too, but I just didn't want to deal with that. Back in the days you would have to do that because there were no virtualized labs. But now you could pretty much go to INE and rent labs and racks and stuff, and pretty much just select the time that you're gonna be practicing your lab and just log into them. Now I would prefer that anyway, because everything's going in cloud and you should be able to know how to do that. So when studying, make sure you are far away from any disturbances or distractions. You will need your family to compromise with you and support you for you to be able to focus better. Every time you sit down, make sure you only get up when you have fully completed the mock lab, or you will build bad habits very quickly. And that's true, because if you don't complete the lab and you get up in the middle every time and stuff like that, you will pretty much do that on the day of the lab, because your body is not used to that. You're sitting there for 8 hours doing this. So you have to train your body to sit there for that long to be able to do it. Simply said, as just exactly what I just said. Now, I remember this was December of 2016, sorry. So all my friends, December is like the downtime. Everybody hangs out late, and it's Christmas and holidays. It's a holiday season, right? So everybody's hanging out, chilling, staying up late, going to the malls late night, and just doing all the fun stuff. So I had to pretty much shut down my cell phone and just ignore the world for a good 6 months, starting I think in June till January. And I was hardcore doing 8 hours a day with 1 day break every day, every single day. And, I lost a couple of friends because, I had to change some priorities. And of course, I had to do better for myself and, move forward in life. I didn't have time to joke around and play around like everybody else. So, I had to ignore a lot of people and really get this done, because I'm doing this for my family and for for myself before anything. Now, your weekly study time should be around 30 to 35 hours. I put in more than that. Now, you should be consistent until a month prior to your exam. A month before the exam, I suggest going into hyperdrive and doing like 50 hours a week. That includes the time you troubleshoot after you have fully completed the mock lab. So finish the mock lab and then troubleshoot. So now it's more of habit building, because then you're gonna, on the day of the lab, when you're done with 6 hours, you're just gonna do 2 more hours, right? So and with all speed and with your mind present. So yeah, so that's exactly what you have to do. Now, the biggest part of it, I think, is time management, and that's what we're going to talk about next. Time management is the most important part of this journey. I know people who work for Cisco and write code of software application and fail because of lack of time management. You not only need to be great, but it is equally important to be fast to pass. Same story. I keep telling you the same thing. 6 hours lab configuration, 2 hours troubleshooting. You need to do that. Now, when you do the mock exam, the first time, it might take you 11 hours to finish the mock lab, because that's how it is. Now, during your during the day of examination, you will be surprised how fast time goes by. Sometimes something as little as too much caffeine can cause your brain to stall. I could not kid you even more. I could not kid you more, right? Because this is exactly how it gets. Like, if you have too much caffeine, you're thinking too much, your brain will clog up. Your synapses will collapse for that moment. You have to build good habits, because not being fully attentive during the lab will throw you off track in another dimension, which will cause you to lose more time. So once you zone out a little bit, you're going to keep traveling out and you'll be in space in no time. So make sure you have your mind right there with you. Otherwise, you'll be wasting time. And then think about it. Then you got to fly back with the disappointment, disappoint your family, obviously, and disappoint yourself, most importantly. Then you got to study all over and then pay and then reschedule, and you have to wait that time period. And after that, you're going to have to book the flight. Oh man, don't get into that. Make sure you do what I'm telling you. Now, as a side note, this is a common problem in the real world too. You should never troubleshoot an item for longer than it would take you to configure it from scratch. Now, a lot of times, if you cannot figure something out, don't waste time troubleshooting it. Just delete it or something, or remove the configuration and reconfigure it if you're not going to mess the bigger picture of it. Sometimes the best approach is to delete and start over, okay? If you study this way, when you are under pressure on the exam day, starting a task over may kick your brain in the autopilot, and the missing step may naturally pop in your head. You can always skip the issue and come back later. Now, just hope you never have to go through that, because I'm just, in my experience, I think that's how it would happen. Like, if you miss something or if you forget something, you delete the configuration and put it back, then it might just come back to your head. And that happens sometimes because you're going through that sequence. So, but thank God it never happened to me. Otherwise, I'm sure there would be a second attempt. So on the day of exam, now I'm telling you all this because the more you know about this, the more comfortable you're going to feel on the day of exam, prior to exam, and it's going to make you very comfortable. So it's like second nature, right? So the more times you watch this video and make yourself comfortable of this, the better it is. Whatever center you're going to go give the test at, make sure you Google it up, check out the surroundings, find out how to get there, make yourself comfortable, because you don't want to go crazy on the day of or on the day of exam and stuff like that. So anyways, moving on. So day of exam, once you arrived at Cisco headquarters location, in my case it was RTP Research Triangle Park in North Carolina, our proctor took our IDs at the front desk and took our pictures, gave us temporary Cisco IDs to enter the building. You will be escorted to the CCIE Lab area, where you will be given a set of instructions to follow, and if not follow, you will automatically forfeit the lab exam. Once your time starts, you need to be able to access the PC, log in to your devices to make sure you can access everything. It is important to finish half the lab prior to lunch, as that is your halfway point of the exam. Simply said, make sure to make full use of scrap paper that you are given to make and note down all the notes. Now, once complete, be sure to troubleshoot any configuration not working, and be sure to make it work, as the exam has weighted sections. Now, what is weighted sections? Okay, let me try to make this easy and make you guys understand that. So weighted section is like, let's say you're doing a task, right, on the lab that is given to you. Now, if you pass that, if you do that completely, that might have more weight or more marks than the next task or the previous task that you have done. So you don't know which task has more weight, and as it relates to as it relates to marks. So you have to make sure you complete all of them. You can't be like, oh, I'll do these ones and I'll miss these ones, so that way I'll just get the passing number. You just don't know which ones are weighted with what marks and which ones are not. So you have to do everything. There's no other choice. Now, once you're done with the exam, this is the day after the exam. Make sure you go over your work as much as you remember and note it down. If you passed, take a few days, enjoy the victory, as now you are part of the 4% of the elite engineers in the networking world. Congratulations, Ali. Congratulations, bro. You will receive your CCIE number in a few days on your exam portal and will receive your plaque in 6 to 8 weeks. If you did not pass, try to give your 110% for the next time around and perfect your techniques. Now, you have to learn from your mistakes. That's what that means. So if you do not pass, make sure you take notes and pass it the next time. Don't fuck around. Now, thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I hope it helps some of you out there. If you liked the video, hit the subscribe button. And if you did not like it, hit the subscribe button anyway. And make sure you like it regardless of how garbage this video was. But either way, until next time, I'll see you guys later. Peace.